if there's one thing that I hate and I cannot stand, is when minorities align themselves with white supremacists and white supremacy talking points, because it literally is just working against their own self-interest. In this clip, we are going to see Piers Morgan and Brian Shapiro just corner this racist MAGA Indian influencer for some of the video clips that she's had of lately that have gone viral. As usual, let's watch the clip in full. I'm going to hold my commentary and my thoughts and my perspective towards the end, so make sure you stay tuned for that. Let's not waste any time. Let's jump in.
The term viral is chronically overused, but there's no question it applies to Priya Patel, the Conservative influencer whose video on immigration has been viewed 30 million times this week so far.
This is your friendly reminder that immigration without assimilation is invasion. Got it?
Well, the problem with viral clips, of course, is that you never know if the 6-second sensation can back up their hubris on the big stage. So we thought we'd put it to the test with an uncensored debate. Joining me now are Priya Patel, the aforementioned Conservative influencer, and Brian Shapiro, host of Pushing the Limits. So first of all, Brian Shapiro, this got a huge kickback, this very short video. It's gone hugely viral, obviously. The main sort of issue that people have had with this is that Priya Patel is basically lecturing people about immigration in the United States, but is called Priya Patel and therefore presumably has a heritage which might be in conflict with the statement. What's your view of this?
Well, first of all, Piers, good to be back with you. Good to see you. Yeah, you're right. This video certainly went viral. My issue is, look at all the white nationalists that were commenting, and she knows this, on her social media pages. That's what's concerning to me, the hatred and the white nationalists that are commenting there. That would be issue number one. Issue number two for me, listen, I have no problem with people coming to this country, learning the language, and taking some classes and learning the history of America and culture. I have no problem with that at all. But what I want in this country, and I think what most people want in this country, is diversity as well. Now, we can go back to her family. I don't know a lot about her family, but in my opinion, a lot of her views and a lot of the stuff that she talks about would lead to her never being born in this country to begin with. And I think that's where she's getting some of the pushback. Listen, I don't support any racism. I don't support some of the hateful comments that she's received. But like I said, there's a lot of comments on her social media and a lot of white nationalists. That's very concerning to me, Piers, and I have a serious problem with that. And that's not culture of America, and that's where my issue lies here.
Okay. Well, Priya Patel, you're the woman of the moment this week. This has gone massively viral. First of all, are you surprised by how much pickup this has had, this clip?
To be honest, I am surprised with the amount of attention that it's gotten, but not surprised altogether, because I've had a viral video that hit on a very similar point prior to this. It didn't go nearly as viral, so of course that is shocking. But yes, I understand that it is a very provocative statement coming from somebody named Priya Patel. However, of course, these people have no idea about my family history and my background.
Right, which is perfectly fair enough. So let's just clear that up, because I think that's obviously key to the whole debate, because you were born in the United States, is that right?
Yes.
Right, but where were your parents from? Are they from the United States or somewhere else?
My mother is from the United States. My father immigrated here as a young boy, and from England, actually, not from India.
Okay, so he's English? Is English your father, or?
He was born in Uganda, immigrated to England when he was about 3 years old, after the dictator Idi Amin chased out all of the Indians out of Uganda, and waited their turn to be able to come to the United States, and did so when he was in his teenage years.
So you say all the Indians. So is your father part Indian, or what's his background?
My father is full Indian.
He's full Indian. So your father's Indian, your mother is American, or is she, what is she? What's her ethnicity?
American, yes.
And what's her ethnicity?
On my mother's side, I have ancestry date. Mixed European. She's a half German, quarter English, and then the rest is mixed European. But aside from that, I mean, I have ancestry on my mother's side of her family dating back to the 1700s in the United States. So
okay, so I'm only just trying to clarify, because as you know, there's been a lot of speculation. Not much is known about your family, but a lot of people will say, so your father was an Indian Indian immigrant from Uganda into the UK. How does that sit with you saying what you said? Because your friendly reminder that immigration without assimilation is invasion. I mean, did your father invade the UK?
No, of course not. But, you know, there is a personal duty on the part of immigrants to assimilate to the culture of the country that they are blessed enough to come to, especially when it comes to, of course, that sort of situation. But honestly, anybody that is blessed enough to come to the United States in particular.
I mean, Brian, look, that is an argument. People say, a lot of countries, the United States, the UK, others have had big issues with controlling immigration. And a lot of people say if you come to a country from another place and you refuse to assimilate in any way and want to just stay out of the society and culture that you've come into, that people shouldn't tolerate that. What's your view of that argument?
Completely disagree with that. And in my personal opinion, I think in a way it's a bigoted view. You can come to this country and you could learn about our culture. I have no problem with that. But that doesn't mean you have to abide by our cultures and what we do. The thing that makes America great is our diversity and the fact that there are all sorts of different cultures, people with different backgrounds that live in the United States of America. That's the way it should be. The idea that people should be forced after they come to this country to do exactly what American U.S. citizens tell them to do is absolutely absurd and ridiculous. In this country, we have freedoms. And when you become a naturalized citizen, and if you come into this country the right way, you should be allowed to do whatever you want as far as your culture is concerned, your religion is concerned. And for somebody to say, you must do this or you must do that, that's against everything the United States of America stands for. And I wish she would at least admit that in this debate.
Okay, well, do you admit that, Brit?
No, I don't admit that. You know, we have cultures and norms that we have a duty to uphold as a society, and I think that you know, it should be enforced to some degree. And whether it's on a societal or a governmental level, I guess that's up for us to eventually decide, but it has to be implemented some way or another.
Well, everybody has to abide by the same... Well,
culture...
look, to be clear, everyone has to abide by the laws of the country that they're living in. Right, so that's just a given in somewhere like the United States or UK. So we can all agree that because that's obviously a fact. But when it comes to cultural differences, in a country of 340 million people, there are obviously myriad cultures, ethnicities, religious creeds, and so on in the United States. It's a real hot potch of people. Famously, it's how the United States was created. People came from all over the world. You know, I'm just curious what you mean by assimilation. What should these people all be doing in a uniform way?
Well, I would disagree with the statement, Piers, that America was built on the fact that people came from all over the world. No, it was a very, very select few group of people that came here to the United States and built it. Of course, since then, we've welcomed a good chunk of the entire world to come to our country, which I would argue is, yes. You said that it was built on the idea that people were coming from all over the world.
Well,
but aside
the whole
from the fact,
premise
I'm
of
sure
the United States of
agree.
America is that people have come from everywhere. Right, that's been the glorious selling point of the United States. Is it's open to all. You got to come in legally, and that's been a contentious issue. But once you get there, I'm not sure. As Brian says, why should you feel compelled to abide by a specific culture? I mean, what is the specific American culture, for example? How would you articulate it?
Why exactly, if you didn't want to assimilate to American culture, live as an American, why exactly would you leave the country that you came from to begin with if you're only going to bring your culture's customs and norms and implement them here and completely disregard that of the American people?
You know, maybe the same reason your father left war-torn Uganda.
Do you not understand that?
Sure, but
do you not understand that there are people that are seeking asylum that want a better life for themselves and their families, that are afraid that they could even lose their lives? Do you understand how many people are seeking asylum and are in fear of their life? For you to make the statement
that is a very small percentage of people coming to the United States, very, very small percentage. And the large majority of people committing
I'm just saying you're making assumptions.
The large majority of people claiming asylum are actually economic migrants. They're not from war-torn countries or suffering under political persecution.
One of the other comments, Priya, you said, which did get a lot of attention, you said not all cultures are equal and we shouldn't be importing the third world. So what did you mean by the third world?
I mean, I think that's pretty evident. There are a large majority of countries that are still considered third world. They are not,
well, which
not privy to any of the...
Which ones would you say are third world?
I mean, you could take into account a lot of countries in Africa, in the Middle East, in Asia.
Well, give me some names of countries
to come from this list.
Give me some names.
You could probably take in Uganda. For example, would actually probably be considered a third world country
for you.
I would believe so. Yes.
Where else do you think is a third world country?
You know, there are parts of countries like Bangladesh and a great many others, but that's somewhat aside from the point.
Would you classify India as a third world country?
I think there's been a lot of debate whether it is or not. There are certain parts of India that are, of course, very westernized and would probably be considered a first world country. However, I think there are a lot of parts of India that, yes, should be considered a third world country still today.
And what do you mean by third world? What does that mean?
I mean, we've had a lot of technological advances and societal advances that a lot of parts of the world have not managed to either keep up with or come to that at this point in time. But to think that people can come from these, for lack of better words, dated societies and just be placed in America and they just magically assimilate, especially when we bring them here en masse, I think that is a massive, massive issue because, of course, these people are not prepared for this. I think if we did it on a very small scale, that it could be successful. Of course, we've seen that plenty of times throughout.
And just to be clear, when you say not all cultures are equal, which cultures, in your view, are inferior?
I mean, quite a few, to be honest with you. I'm not going to sit here and call out people's specific cultures, however.
Well, which ones? Which cultures are
why not?
inferior?
Call it out.
Yeah.
Which ones?
Sure, fine. Afghanistan would be a good example.
That's a country, not a culture.
Well, of course, the culture that comes from Afghanistan, we can talk about the Muslim culture that comes from the Middle Eastern countries. I would argue that those aren't particularly equal. I mean, we see a lot of...
So the whole Muslim culture of what, over a billion, well, actually nearly 2 billion people.
I didn't say the whole Muslim culture.
Well, you said Muslim.
You just said it.
Correct. I said some of the Muslim cultures that we're seeing from the Middle East.
Well, just to be, I'm just trying to work out what you believe. So you think the Muslim culture is an inferior culture?
In a lot of ways, yes.
Wow.
It's just so ridiculous, Piers.
Okay.
This is so ridiculous.
Brian, I think we're getting to why this comment went viral, why both those comments went viral.
First of all, it's extremely offensive. I would ask her how many Muslim people does she know, number one. Number two, when you take an entire group of people,
quite a few, and they're actually very westernized.
I didn't interrupt you. I did not interrupt you. Please let me finish. When you take an entire group of people, when you take an entire group of people and say they are lesser than us, that is pure bigotry. And I'm not surprised.
Actually, I stated in that video my exact. You made an incorrect statement about my position.
You just thought Afghanistan was a culture, so don't talk to me about statements that people make that are not correct. Okay?
Countries have culture, Brian.
Piers, here's the issue we have here. Okay? And I'm going to instill politics into this. When you go on her social media page, she echoes a lot of similar things that MAGA Republicans echo, taking an entire group of people like the lower loomers of the world, saying they all should be deported, or in this case, taking all Muslims and saying they're inferior to Americans. She has a MAGA hat on her social media page.
Not what I said.
And what she does is she caters to MAGA Republicans in her base. It's why she gets all the views she gets. And I think it's extremely offensive, I'll say it once again, to take an entire group of people. That would be, how would you feel if somebody said everybody that is Indian is inferior to Americans? You would say that's racist. That's a terrible thing to say.
Well, hang on. Let me ask the question.
I would never say that.
Well, let me ask the question. Would you say that about Indians, Priya?
Of course, and I would not. Of course not. I would never say that about any race or group of people.
You literally just said it about Muslims.
You just said it. You just said it about Muslims.
You couldn't have been clearer. I gave you the chance to clarify, and you clarified it.
And that's perfectly fine. Look, I do think America has a superior culture, and I would like to uphold that.
View, and it's perfectly fine that we think it's a bigoted view and very hypocritical if you then say that other vast countries like India are exempt from your bigotry, because Well, guess
No,
what? Your father happens to be Indian.
That's of course never what I said, Piers.
No, but people think you're a hypocrite.
You guys are both taking things completely out of context.
They say your father's an Indian, but here you are condemning all Muslims as somehow culturally inferior.
That's fine. I've been very critical about Indian immigration to this country too. I'm not picking and choosing
but when you
one
say
group
that,
of
when you
people,
say that
I
some
simply
cultures are less equal, you're a Christian, I understand. Is that right?
Correct. Yes, that's correct.
So
and if you would let me clarify exactly what I said.
As a fellow Christian, well, hang on. As a fellow Christian, I thought the teachings were quite clear that all men are created equally. Where does this sit with that?
Correct, Pearson. Did you watch? I don't know if either of you watched the entirety of that video where I was talking about culture. I specifically did state that all people are created equal under the eyes of God and the law, of course. However, we do have a society that we're supposed to uphold here in America, and like you, Pierce, in England, right? You don't want a lot of foreign invaders coming into your country and completely causing the collapse of your society and of your country. If people are blessed enough to come to America,
so would you,
or come to
out
England,
of interest,
they
to stop this invasion, as you put it, would you deport all foreigners from the United States?
No, I would not deport all foreigners from the United States. I would certainly deport all of the illegal foreigners that are here in the United States.
What about those that just didn't sign up to your worldview of what the culture should be?
No, I don't necessarily think that they should all be deported from the United States, but I think we do need a very slow and if not a halt on immigration as a whole currently, so that we can, as a society and allow our government to continue to help these people assimilate to our culture, actually fix our immigration system so that it works with our country, so that we can keep it intact as it is, and honestly, maybe get back to what we were, originally founded on.
I think we'll leave it there. Brian and Priya, thank you both very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Guys, this is peak pulling the ladder up behind you. This is exactly what this is. Everything that it is that she's just explained, given her own logic, her father would not be able to come to the United States. Or even before that, England, her own father. Now, there's a few points that it is that I want to go through with this, because as I was listening to this and I was watching it, a few things kind of went through my mind. First and foremost, her surname is Patel. Her first name is Priya. These are one of the most common Indian immigrant surnames and names. And people like me, like you, are seeing the peak contradiction with the child of an Indian immigrant pushing anti-immigration rhetoric. It makes no sense. None whatsoever. Like I said, by her own logic, her family shouldn't have been allowed to immigrate from India, whether that be from her father coming to England or then her father then going to the United States. By her own logic. Now, this is what the mental part is, and this is why I like to do research. Maga don't like data. They don't like actual research and facts, because Donald Trump doesn't because he makes up his own. Pew Research data shows Indian Americans actually have a very high assimilation rate. 90% express pride in both identities. 92% have high English proficiency, and their median household income exceeds 126k. So her claims, they don't even add up against her own community. It is stupid. Now, I know that's only about Indians, but I bet you if he was to do research on multiple different ethnic backgrounds, you would probably find similar numbers. Now, the mad part for me is this, and this is the most important thing for me that I want to highlight. I always say to these people when I see minorities, black people, brown people, that are pushing white supremacist talking points, it doesn't make sense. I've said it before about Patrick Bet-David, when he tries to act like he's a part of Maga and Maga would love him. The key irony of this is white nationalists are still in her replies literally saying things like, I don't care about assimilation, I don't want people named Priya Patel in my country. Like both white nationalists and Indians would want her deported. This is the reason why I don't understand why minorities, they align themselves with white supremacists and white supremacist talking points. She's a regular on things like Fox. Let's have it right. If the people who are having her on Fox had their way, she would be gone. She would not be here. Literally, others in her comments bluntly told her she would be deported back to India, and she's still an outsider to these individuals. Listen, no amount of anti-immigration rhetoric earns acceptance from the far right that she's trying to pander to. That's just the reality. They don't care that she, quote unquote, assimilated. They just don't want brown and black people in their country. Full stop. That is it. And like I said at the top of giving my perspective, she is a textbook example of pulling the ladder up behind you, benefiting from immigration herself, and then campaigning to shut the doors on others that seek a better life. And this is embarrassing, and it just shows so much how hardline immigration politics have intensified. The culture and literally the talking points around it. You have people like this who come out and will push white supremacists talking points when it would hurt her and her family. Honestly, white nationalists used her own social media posts as an opportunity to be openly racist toward her. And that just proves that their issue was never about assimilation. It was always about race. And that's why someone like Priya Patel doing these racist social media rants, guess what? The same way I said about Patrick Bet-David, they are never going to love you. They're not. Let me know your guys' thoughts on this exchange in the comment section below. Such a weird interview. And I'll be honest, I think that's the reason why Piers just abruptly ended it, because she was just making no sense. Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. Hype up the video, give the video a thumbs up, and hit the subscribe button as well. Appreciate you guys. I'll see you in the next one. I hate people that pull up the ladder behind them.